Journal. But Tamara, let me ask you, as the defense attorney here, put you inside of this courtroom. We're all sitting here watching this videotape, and we're all saying this is really creepy.
Creepy.
Yeah, not only how he's acting, but the words he's saying. So, you know, Bob and I are saying if we're the prosecutors, we're playing this because it gives us that whole concept of planning and knowing right from wrong, apologizing, which again, we would say as prosecutors, he knew right from wrong if he's apologizing. But as the defense attorneys, you're going to be able to get something out of these tapes also, aren't you?
Of course. This video as a whole shows somebody that is crazy, not necessarily, yes, he's planning. He's clearly apologizing to his mother, and he's talking about how he bought this gun. He shows the receipt. So there is a lot of planning, but as a whole, if you look at it as a whole, you look at the diary, you look at the video, you see that this is somebody who, and you look at the fact that he was released from an institution. So you ask the jury to look at this as a whole insane plot. So the plot is insane, not necessarily that because he planned it, he's not insane. The whole idea.
Is. That's what you got to have the jury look at the big picture. And what's interesting about this is usually in insanity cases, what do you have? You have experts on one side, the defendant saying, well, we've interviewed him, here's what we think about it. You have experts on the prosecution side saying, we interviewed him also, and here's what we think. But here it seems to me, in terms of the jurors, and again, you can both make arguments about it, but the jurors don't, in many ways, don't have to rely on just the experts.
No, that's very true.
They get to see it themselves, right?
Yeah, very true. That's why when you prosecute these cases, you have to, and they're probably the ideal cases to train trial lawyers with, particularly prosecutors in murder cases, when you get to that level, because you are building blocks with each piece of evidence, and each piece of evidence in the mosaic suggests to the jury overwhelmingly that the defendant knew exactly what he was doing to complete the unlawful act. That is to say, we admit that he has a delusional belief system. That is to say, he has a false belief system.
So you give up that one part, saying, yeah, he's got problems.
No, look, is not the person who goes in, the defendant who goes into a liquor store, shoots the proprietor and or a customer and gets $50 from the register. Is not that person crazy? Of course not. And as we relate to rational behavior with the expectation that people are going to suppress their delusional beliefs and behave and act in a normal fashion. But when you have this kind of a case with someone who is planning the demise of another individual, and you take each piece of it, so you have that planning stage as you suggest, because that gets us into knowledge of what the consequences are. And again, we have to stick with what the law is.
But you can understand, you can also, insanity defenses have worked where you understand that what you're doing is wrong, but you cannot control the urge. And that is what it looks like here. He understands that what he is doing is wrong. But he cannot control any urge whatsoever to stop himself. This guy is crazy. He is delusional, but it rises to the level of insanity.
So how do you get then, and a quick answer to this because I want to get to Beth, because how do you get then, because as you guys know, we talked about before, this is not one of those jurisdictions where you can rely on the irresistible impulse. You know, they say, and if it was, I think then you've got a real strong insanity case. Well, here you've got just, if you know nature and consequences, and I think it's pretty clear he did. If you know it's wrong, I think it's pretty clear he did. You don't have the other. So if you're the defense, are you just going to say to the jury, just look at this guy,
just watch
and hope that somehow they'll say, this guy's so bad that we got to do something other than say guilty? Is that what you're hoping for?
Yeah, watch the video. And I think that the prosecution made a mistake here to the defense's for the defense, because the prosecution played this entire video. Had they played pieces of it, I think it would have been better for them than if they played the whole thing, because now you're really freaked out.
This is a hard one, I think, for them to decide, and obviously hard because there are enormous consequences on this decision here. So, Tamara, you give us some of the arguments that would militate in favor of keeping him off the stand.
Well, I think that cross-examination is a terrible thing in this situation, because the prosecutor's going to say, you wanted to kill your father. You wanted to take your own life. You knew it was wrong. You and he's going to say, yes, I wanted to kill my father. Why did you want to kill your father? I wanted to kill my father because he was abusing me. So those are things that you don't want, as a defense attorney, the jury to hear. You don't want to hear the plotting and the planning and the understanding that what you're doing is wrong.
So if he was, for instance, if he was saying on this tape, I wanted to kill my father because I believed he was a Russian agent trying to sabotage the country, that might be okay.
Right.
But if you say, and Bob's your prosecutor and says, so you were angry at him, right? That's why you wanted to kill him.
Then you keep him off of the stand, because then he admits to anger, to a reason, to a motive for killing his father that is a reasonable, non-insane reason. So you keep him off for that reason. The other thing is you have the best evidence, and I'm not talking about the best evidence rule, but I'm talking about when you look at the best evidence to convince the jury that he is insane. He's not the best evidence to do that in his testimony while he is on medication. The best evidence is the diary and the video. And the other thing is that he talks about in his diary that the killing, I disagree that the killing at the school is to kill himself. Because in the diary he says, sacrifice will occur and those children will be free from evil. And he goes on to say that he wants to protect them from sex and pornography and all of these things. So he talks about sacrifice of others. That is clearly an insane... insane thinking, or could be used to prove insanity.
And the jury has that without a prosecutor coming after him.
Without him on the stand, they have that.